KXVS on 92.1 coming soon. KXVS.
This broadcast will start in 60 seconds. This broadcast will start in 45 seconds. This broadcast will start in 30 seconds. This broadcast will start in 15 seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org. Time for Stockton Alive! And here's your one host for Stockton Alive, the one and only Mr. Nate Knott.
Here we are, Dustin, live on the air, and as we usually do, or we've been doing later on in more recent shows, we do give you the date so you know if this is a live show or not. Of course, we don't. If it's tape recorded, you haven't seen it before, we still want you to stay tuned in. But just you know, if you're sitting around and you look up at your calendar and it happens to be Monday, September 24th, 2018, then you're getting a live show of Stockton Alive. What we're going to talk about tonight, Dustin, to start with, is our transit district here, for which, of course, in full transparency, I work for. Did pick up a huge national award the other day. I think we briefly touched on it the last time we were on the air, but at that point the award had just come out, and we already had the other stuff in the script and everything. So today we'll talk about what the award is and why RTD got it, and then we'll talk about the great prevalence of recreational sports in and around Stockton. Now that's not unusual. There's a lot of cities that have good recreational sports. But I know what Stockton has, so that's what we'll talk about. We'll also do a little bit of memory lane stuff today, too, as we usually do. So, I'm surprised for this late in September it's still so hot out there, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It was 90 this weekend.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. It's pretty toasty out there right now. But fortunately, we're in the air-conditioned comfort of our KXVS studio here, so we're okay. Although the KXVS studio tends to gradually have the air conditioning kind of drift away in the course of our show. So by the time we end the show, it's usually a few more degrees in here than when we started, but we'll get through it. So here's the award that San Joaquin RTD achieved or was awarded this year. First of all, let me clarify the name. San Joaquin Regional Transit District. And it's called the Regional Transit District because of the fact that we are the transportation provider for this region, specifically County of San Joaquin. Let me also clarify we're not a part of the county government of San Joaquin County. We're also not part of the city government of Stockton. I get those questions all the time. The San Joaquin Regional Transit District is a special district, which happens to be a transit district. A special district is something that's usually set up by a state legislative law or what they call enabling legislation by the state of California. Mm-hmm. And then you have a district or a boundary that you're responsible for. And then you have some program funding, which in our case, if you went back to June 1st, 1965, when the transit district started, there wasn't that much of a subsidy needed. Transit was still fairly close to break even in those days. And so there was a property tax assessed in the San Joaquin Regional Transit District area. It's very, very minimal. Well, now that I mention that because that property tax that was set up with the founding of the agency only covers 1/34 of our budget now. It's not even close to covering the major expenses, whereas at one time it made up most of the revenue needed in addition to passenger fares. Passenger fares only bring in, depending on the type of bus and service and what route you're running and various things, only brings in 8 to 20% of the actual cost of operating service. All the rest of it has to come from funding. So, having said that, the reason I said San Joaquin Regional Transit District, it's the original predecessor organization under this state of California enabling legislation was the Stockton Metropolitan Transit District. That is what was created on June 1st, 1965. The enabling legislation dates back to 1963, by the way. However, and then we only served the city of Stockton primarily. We did have a route to the county hospital, but you had to pay a surf fare at that time because it was outside the district. Most people either don't know that or don't remember that. Up until something like 1998 or 1999, you still had to pay a separate fare to go past the end of El Dorado and onto the hospital. You had to you put the regular fare in and you bought a ticket. You had to be able to give the ticket to the driver or then pay the additional fare, which at that time was something like an extra 25 or 50 cents on top of the fare, which at that time was about 50 cents or 75 cents. Now, the reason I wanted to mention the name again is because a lot of people call it the San Joaquin Rapid Transit District. And we now have the BRT or bus rapid transit type of buses and routes and service. So that confusion continues to be out there. But it is the Regional Transit District. Southern California famously called its service the Southern California Rapid Transit Agency, or SCRTA. And most people just call it RTA. But everybody else gets called Rapid Transit because LA was called Rapid Transit. That's kind of how that came about. By the way, it was still a private company until May 30th, 1965. It was then Stockton City Lines, which was a holding company for General Motors that bought out the original Stockton Electric Railroad Company. When we had streetcars, it was the Stockton Electric Railroad. That became Stockton City Lines, which is primarily buses, and that evolved in the Stockton Metropolitan Transit District, and now you have San Joaquin RTD. And we try to get everybody just to call us RTD. So, with that being said, now you know exactly who we are and when we were founded. I'm sure that was just great enlightening for most of you out there in our vast listening audience that we inherited from Betty Lupe Ramirez and all of her great people. So this is the award we won. We were named the Outstanding Transit Agency in the United States of America for agencies with in the neighborhood of 4 million passengers a year. And that's out of the whole country now. We won that award. And that was provided to us by the largest organization to represent public transit, which is known as the American Public Transit Association, APTA. And we had a special celebration lunch for that last Tuesday, September 18th at the University Hotel. And we had a nice video played with the president of APTA up there. And he said that us winning this award as the Outstanding Transit Agency of the United States of America was similar to winning an Academy or Emmy Award. So that's how they kind of, which those awards have classifications too, if you think about it. So here's why we won the award. RTD's been very innovative, and we have a lot of different services. We actually do a remarkable number of different things and run many different types of service in buses, way more than most transit agencies our size. We also have a lot of innovative programs, so I'm going to start rattling all this stuff off. Undoubtedly, Dustin will have questions for me, and this will be the premier part of our show today. So we'll show you how RTD Alive is alive in Stockton, on Stockton Alive. Okay, so here's, and these aren't in, I don't have these in a particular order. Probably starting off with bigger stuff, going to smaller stuff, but it's all important. Remember, the sum of many small parts is a very big sum. So that's the other thing we could say. All these little words, all the little things add up to something big. Number one, RTD chose to go with diesel-electric hybrid buses. Back in, we first implemented these buses in service back in 2003. Bus number 4001, which I used to call the Sunflower Bus. Well, I still call it the Sunflower Bus, but it's not. It's no longer currently operating. Was a bus you used to see tooting around Stockton with a bunch of sunflowers and a blue sky on it, and it said, "A breath of fresh air." Let me tell you the historic significance of bus number 4001, and I'm desperately trying to see that we get it into a museum somewhere, as opposed to just letting it be unceremoniously scrapped. Bus 4001 had to overcome some major odds for hybrid technology. Now, here's why. The trend in the late 1990s and the early 2000s was to go to CNG buses. CNG stands for compressed natural gas. Compressed natural gas is something similar to natural gas like you have in your stove, except this gas is under pressure. Now, that was the popular thing to do. And you've got California, Southern California particularly, has a lot of oil refinery and various other things. And they love compressed natural gas. It's a great business for them. But we had several reasons we didn't want to go that way. And we were kind of bucking a statewide trend. And that's why, and I'll get back to Bus 4001, its historic significance and its uphill battle in just a moment. Let me explain compressed natural gas, which is what the diesel-electric hybrid technology was competing with. Compressed natural gas is you take something, you take petroleum or oil or whatever you want to call it, but you turn it into a vapor rather than a liquid type of gas. And I don't understand all the physics of it, but they compress it and it becomes a vapor. But you have to store it. I still can't get over this. You have to store it at minus 396 degrees. It's above that temperature, it's unstable. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what unstable means, when you mix it with gas or petroleum, unstable means boom, crash, bang, explosion. So you have to build a special fueling facility, which back in 2003 would have cost something like $5 million just to build a facility and fuel our buses. Right now, we just plop in a diesel hose and fill them like you would fill any diesel machine, like a pickup truck or a generator or any other type heavy-duty equipment. That's how we fuel our buses. With compressed natural gas, you'd have to do it under pressure. You'd have to build a multi-million-dollar facility. It has to be certified by the fire department. You have to have special hazmat plans, and you have to have people on duty with certain qualifications and emergency procedures. With diesel-electric hybrid, we just stick a hose in the bus and fill it up. Yes, there's some high technology. I'm going to get to that. But most of the stuff, most of the mechanics, even the electronics that's in a diesel-electric hybrid bus are off-the-shelf standard technology. And on top of that, you not only have roughly the same emissions as compressed natural gas, and sometimes better, which is something like 97% free of emissions. Our buses basically don't pollute. But with the diesel-electric hybrid system of low emissions, you not only have the low emissions like CNG, but you get better fuel mileage. You get anywhere from 5 to 7.5 miles per gallon running the bus down the road versus compressed natural gas getting the same as any conventional diesel engine, which is about 3.5 per mile.
Nate, do you know how many public transportation organizations around the country actually do have hybrid?
Quite a few now, and that's exactly. And I don't have the number.
Okay,
though. But it's pretty common around the United States, and this is the whole point I'm now getting to.
Okay.
Now that I've spelled out what compressed natural gas is, which is a special vapor type gas. The engines are very similar, by the way. But they have to be, a regular engine can be modified to do compressed natural gas, but there's also engines that come off the shelf for that. So, with our diesel-electric hybrid technology, what we do is we have a diesel engine that operates both a transmission and a motor. It generates electricity that goes into a little motor, which is integrally computer designed into the transmission. And the computer decides how much electric power to use and how much less diesel engine power that you need. And in other words, you have less fuel going into the engine, and you have less RPMs and certain things like that. And then the electric motors making up the difference. But that's all built in the transmission. So the high-tech part is really the transmission. Now, like any hybrid technology, which most people are pretty familiar with, you have storage batteries. That's the hump we have on our buses, is the storage batteries. When you're slowing down and putting the brakes on, what is a generator turns into a... it goes from... I'm sorry. The motor reverts to becoming a generator instead of a motor. And it generates electricity and puts it in the storage batteries, so that later on, when the bus is accelerating, it actually sucks the electricity from the storage battery. That's the source. That's the source of the power for the electric motor mixed in with the diesel motor. Now, here's why we get better fuel mileage. Because we have the because we have the electric motor assist, we use a smaller diesel engine. We use a straight inline pickup truck engine, not a big truck engine. And therein lies the reason why we get about 35% better fuel mileage, because we're using a smaller engine.
Yeah.
The buses are much quieter. Now, finally, I'm going to tell you why 4001 is special. And you asked the question about how many people use it. We were one of the first in the United States to do diesel-electric hybrid. We weren't the first, but we were right in the top. In California, I think we're the second or third agency. And nationwide, we might have been the top 5. But this is the significant thing. Because of the immense power of the Southern California lobby wanting the standard thing for buses to be compressed natural gas, the California Air Resources Board, which had to prove whatever technologies were going to be allowed, was kind of tilted towards wanting people to be CNG because they felt it was good business for the state of California because of all of our refineries and things. However, as I explained to you, we didn't want to have $5 million filling facility and all the other technical stuff. And we liked the idea that diesel-electric hybrid was basically standard off the shelf. So RTD, our little RTD that carries about 4 million people a year, located here in Stockton, relatively small transit agency, compared to the really big boys like AC Transit, Muni, New York MTA, Cleveland, Ohio, and places like that, and Philadelphia, that have huge transit systems, and many with rail, of course. And even here with Sacramento and San Jose and San Diego being much bigger and having rail. Anyway, our little RTD pioneered with General Motors. This is the original General Motors before the government bailout, by the way, when it was still the big, huge monolithic corporation. So RTD partnered with General Motors and its wholly owned subsidiary, Allison Transmissions. I don't remember if Detroit Diesel, which used to be a wholly owned subsidiary of GM, was involved with the engine at that time. As I remember now, most of our buses operate with Cummins engines. And I left out the fact that the bus manufacturer was Gillig Brother, a local manufacturer, then located in Hayward. Now they just recently moved to Livermore. Best transit buses in the world, by the way. Right here in Northern California, our own local company, which used to be famous for making school buses. If you put yourself back in time about 30 years ago, and for about a 40-year period of time, from, say, the 30s to the 70s, actually into the 80s and 90s, Gillig was by far and away the dominant bus company for making yellow school buses used by California schools. So, here was the point. We got the bus built. It ran beautifully. Had very low emissions, almost no emissions, and it got great fuel mileage. But we had to get it certified by the California Air Resources Board. And they tortured bus 4001 for about 2 years and finally decided it has good or better emissions than CNG and had better fuel mileage, and therefore they certified it for manufacture, for commercial regular manufacture. Now, here's the point. For all the fun people make in California, we're still the trendsetter for the nation, and we still lead the way technologically for most of the United States. It's no accident to Silicon Valley sitting in San Jose in that area, and we are still the leaders in computer technology. So, having said all that, once California certified, and we have the strictest, pollution laws in the nation, especially for vehicles. Once they certified our bus, the RTD bus, bus number 4001 with the Sunflower, once it was certified by the California Air Resources Board as meeting all of the stringent rules and regulations put forth on buses and emissions and fuel mileage by the state of California, that opened the floodgates for diesel electric buses to be built all over the nation. So we pioneered that for the whole United States back in 2003 and 4. Okay, and then we were one of the first fleets. We were one of the first agencies in all of America to have dedicated bus rapid transit with diesel electric hybrid buses. That's all old news now, however. So now I've covered the hybrid thing. So we pioneered a whole national trend. Because many transit buses throughout the U.S. now are hybrid. You asked that question. However, only California really requires you can no longer produce a regular diesel bus in California and sell it here. You have to buy some kind of alternative fuels or some kind of low emissions. And we're getting close to the point where there'd be no emissions in California. So, knowing this is coming, and because we're a trendy national leader in transit innovation, after we did the hybrid, what do you think's the next type of bus we came in with, Dustin?
Electric?
That's right, electric. They're all over town, actually. And we, in August of 2017, we became the first transit agency in the United States of America to operate an entire bus rapid transit route solely dependent upon electric buses. Now, we have what's called quick charge buses. They're built by the Proterra Bus Company of South Carolina. So they're also made in USA and they're local and they're a new technology. And what quick charge means is we have a storage battery on those buses, a very large technical storage battery, or high-tech, I should say. We can get about 2.5 hours and about 24 to 30 miles of service out of those buses. That's enough for a round trip, or in some routes, 2 round trips of the entire route, and then we charge it. And the way we charge it, the bus pulls into within about 40 feet of the bus stop. This is done at major terminals now. It's not done out in all the little bus stops all over Stockton. In fact, we only have 2 chargers right now, both at our downtown transit center. But we are in the process of installing 2 more in South Stockton. I'll get to that in a moment. The buses pull in, and 40 feet away, they put it in park or neutral or something, and a computer takes over and drives the bus in to the actual spot of bus stop for the passengers. And in so doing, a big metal clunky thing comes out of the sky on a tower.
Yeah, that's what I've always seen when I go downtown. Yes. I always wonder what that is.
And I think we call that thing an electric pod. I don't remember, but this big old thing that looks like one of the old-fashioned irons you put on a wood stove.
How long does it take to charge, fully?
Good question. That's just what I was coming to. You can generally get a full charge for the 2.5 hours and 30 miles of service in 10 to 11 minutes.
Is there you guys charge it basically all night too?
Well, another brilliant question. We're just on the verge of going through a big grant application with PG&E and a pilot project to get 5 overnight chargers.
Oh, interesting.
And we've got 17 electric buses. 2 were prototypes, by the way. They were handmade, and they cost $1.2 million a piece. I never could say without breaking up. The California Energy Resources bought those, by the way. RTD did not spend money.
I would expect those would be actually a lot more than 1.2 million.
Yeah, you could say that. And those 2 are smaller. They're 35 feet versus 40, and they have kind of a rainbow-looking paint scheme.
What kind of technology does it?
They look like a missile popsicle.
What kind of technology does the bus have? It's
all electric. It's just, the funny thing is when you open up an electric bus, you open the rear panel. There's just a metal box there with wires coming.
Well, I know some buses have the the control panel where it's a computer that runs.
Yeah, there is a computer of sorts. They do have a transmission, by the way, which is a little surprising to me, because a lot of electronic transmission is done straight with motors right to the axles and wheels. Our buses do have, I want to say it's a 2-speed transmission, high and low and reverse, I think is what we have on those buses. And because there's no engine sound, like a big engine gurgling or idling or roaring, you hear the transmission changing gears, by the way. That's one of the unusual things about riding those buses. You hear it go into and out of first gear all the time as they go down the road and slow down and speed up and so forth. But anyway, I'm just trying to lose the listeners completely. I'm explaining things we've done that are revolutionary, technological, and advanced on why we got the American Public Transit Award as the outstanding transit system in the nation. So, We pioneered hybrid technology, although that wasn't really specifically part of the award, but the electric buses were. The fact that we're now converting several more routes to electric buses. Right now, Route 44 is the all-electric BRT route. And BRT, remember, is Bus Rapid Transit. Special high-speed routes that make very few stops, run on very frequent schedules, and have much shorter running times than regular transit buses. And they double and triple the ridership everywhere we install those routes. Well, so we got the 44 all-electric, but we're just months away from electrifying the Route 49 on Martin Luther King Boulevard. And at the same time we electrify the Route 49 on Martin Luther King Boulevard, we're going to electrify the Route 47 Midtown corridor. Now, those routes are both brand new, by the way. Midtown started in March, and the Martin Luther King started in July, late July. But they're both going to get electrified because we're building a thing called the Union Transfer Station in South Stockton, on property we purchased next to the Union Pacific Railroad Yard, right adjacent to a Stockton fire department. But this is what people will know. We're also real close to Rancho San Miguel. 2nd Street comes from Airport and loops around to Union Street and then back out to Airport Way. And our bus Union Transfer Station is going to be located, actually I should say is located on the property we purchased on Union Street, about 300 yards from Rancho San Miguel. And we'll have 4 bus lanes going through there. It's going to be something like the Hammer Transfer Station. Now, this will have a building, but it will not be occupied initially by customer service reps, as we have not yet done that with Hammer either, because that's a labor cost that our tight budget can't really afford right now. But it is, and this is not. This is something that's been discussed. I don't think there's been a serious discussion yet whether it will or will not happen. But Greyhound, which recently moved into the downtown transit station and uses our lane C to board passengers of our 4 lanes downtown. We have 24 specific boarding slots, by the way, but there's 4 lanes. Greyhound may consider at some point moving to the building at the Union Transfer Station, therefore having its own dedicated ticket office and waiting room, as opposed to being a part of our service at the downtown transit center. If not Greyhound, though, somebody else will be able to use that building, in addition to when we eventually put in the customer service center. Okay, so we got 2 things. We pioneered hybrid technology, and we're now on the cutting edge of all the electric service. By the way, we were the 2nd transit agency in California to operate electric buses, and we were the 4th in the entire nation to operate electric buses. And our current fleet is now 17. 7 are waiting to be put into service. We just received them just recently, but we'll be using quite a few of the new electric buses to electrify routes 49 and 47. Collectively, those 2 routes combined will require approximately 9 buses. And then we still already have 3 buses on the Route 44. So the remaining buses will do local routes, which are currently local routes 578, 580, and 560 are currently running with electric buses. The 560 usually has the old prototype bus. The difference between the prototype and the new ones, by the way, the new ones charge a little faster. They're 40 feet size length. They're standard size. They have they're better buses in general. Proterra's had several years now building buses, and they're getting much better at things like the doorways and the windshield wipers and all these little mundane things you don't think about. And the buses have an excellent record. They actually can accelerate very quickly, and they move down the road very good. If you're standing on the street, they're almost completely silent. They're noisier actually to ride on than they are to have stand on the sidewalk and go by. Inside, you get a bit of a humming sound from the electric motor. If you've ever ridden a BART train, there's a humming sound. Well, that comes from the electric motor. We have a little bit of that humming sound, kind of a humming, whining sound, which comes from the rear of the bus. By the way, the nice thing about these new electric buses, they have a rear window. I'd never liked the fact that buses didn't have a rear window. Well, they have the rear window again, as do the articulated Nova buses, which I rode one here to come here to work today, right here on the Miracle Mile, Route 40. Okay, so now I've talked about electric. Also, just the fact that we implemented more bus rapid transit routes is a thing. We're by far the smallest agency in America to operate 5 fully committed bus rapid transit routes, and soon 3 of which will be electric, all electric. Okay, so that's that part. Those are the really biggie things. Now, and we also have a beautiful downtown transit center. We're one of the first in the nation to have that. Now a lot of people have that. There's several good ones just in San Joaquin County alone, but we pioneered that also. But here's the other things we do. Now I'm just going to kind of do more of a laundry list. And this is, again, to remind you, the various things we innovate that allowed us to win the American Public Transit Association Outstanding Transit Agency of the Year Award for year 2018 from the American Public Transit Association. The fact that our BRT routes serve some really very good demographics for needing bus service. Many people don't own a car, may have a lower income, and or disabled people. Transit's very, very, very important to these people, and these new routes we put in the best possible places for those demographics. So we're getting credit for having put in the BRT routes where they're needed the most. We also pioneered the county hopper and the metro hoppers. Those are called deviated fixed routes. They operate with a timetable and a map, but they have extra time built in the schedule, because with proper reservations by people who are certified in the Americans with Disabilities Act as having a very major, serious, chronic type of illness or injury, or, well, not injury, but illness or physical disabled or maybe a mental challenge. The deviated fixed routes can do both things. They can run like a fixed route, but they can go offline by about 3/4 of a mile in either direction to pick up people who made reservations, who are certified to make those reservations. So we pioneered the county hopper back in 2002, and then the metro hopper, which is the ones that do the same thing on routes within the Stockton area, in 2009. Now, here's the laundry list, and this will be pretty much, we'll basically conclude why we got the APT award. If all of what I told you wasn't enough, we recently had a partnership which has just temporarily expired, but we renewed with Uber, where you could get service where we didn't provide fixed route service and didn't have the buses running at that time in morning or night. If you took a trip to a special San Joaquin County location like the county hospital, the downtown transit center, I think Walmart or Hammer Lane was one of the places, the Hammer Transfer Station, the Tracy Transit Center, the Manteca Transit Center, and various places in San Joaquin County that are transit hubs. If you ordered a trip through your regular phone, Uber phone app to one of those locations, you automatically got a half off discount price from Uber. Up to $5, I should say. So if you had a $9 trip, you were only charged $4.50, and RTD was paying the other $4.50 through Uber. If you had a $11 trip, we were paying $5, and the RTD was paying $5, and the customer was paying $6. So, and that went up as high as you wanted it to go, but we paid half of the fare up to $5. Very popular program. Several thousand people a month took advantage of that. We're hoping to have that back very, very soon. However, we're creating our own Uber type service.
Interesting.
We've got some beautiful new little transit vans sitting in our county transit maintenance garage. I just saw them today. They'll be strategically parked in several corners of the county of San Joaquin. And they'll be open to most people. You will not have to be American with Disabilities Act. You won't have to be disabled. I forgot the exact date, but sometime in early October, we're talking just a few weeks from now, we're going to implement this service north of Hammer Lane, primarily for Lodi and Thornton and Woodbridge. And I believe Linden will also receive that type of service, where you can call in for a trip, and we'll come out and pick you up in one of our little vans, and we'll get you to where you need to go. And I believe the introductory rate will be $5. It's going to be a great service for just $5. And then that's going to spread to the whole county. We're starting with the Lodi, North San Joaquin County area or region, but we're going to spread it to East San Joaquin County and South San Joaquin County. So it will become available in the Manteca area and the Tracy area also, and the Ripon Escalon area. And that's called Van Go. VAN, capital Go, uppercase V, lowercase an, uppercase G, lower O. Van Go. Obviously, you can get your van and go somewhere. And also, we're designing the buses to be inspired by the artist, the painter, Van Gogh. So, and I think when you do the phone app, you'll see Van Gogh's face on your phone or something like that. And that's just a few weeks away. Now, something else we've already innovated. I don't have a lot of details on this exactly today, but we also have a thing called the Care Connection. It's called non-emergency medical transportation. This is a hugely important thing for a handful of people. I don't mean a real small number, but a limited number of people in San Joaquin County, as in a very small portion of the population. Many people need specialized medical care. A lot of this is children, by the way. Need specialized medical care that they can only get in the Bay Area or Sacramento. Not to knock our hospital. We have a lot of great medical care here, too. We have a burn unit, a special burn unit at St. Joseph's, a cancer care there. Dameron talks about having some of the most successful back surgeries in the world or something. So we have great hospital care here. But nevertheless, there is some hospital care that predominantly young children need that's very expensive and hard to get, but people will qualify for a program, but they'll have to go once or twice a week or once every couple of weeks to the Bay Area. And it's not just that. People would be willing to drive, but they can't drive and take care of the person at the same time. Yes. These people need fairly constant care. That doesn't mean they're totally disabled now. But our Care Connection van, and I want to say the charge is $11. You can make a reservation in advance. It'll pick you up early in the morning, and it will transfer you to a van coming out of Modesto that's been existing for years, pick you up in Tracy, it'll transfer you in Tracy, and that van will go to any major hospital that you need in the Bay Area and drop you off. And then every afternoon it swings around and picks up all the people. And on top of that, if you're able to do it or you prefer to do it, the same van that picks you up to take you to the Bay Area bus could also just deliver you to our BART 150 commuter bus. And then with that, you can get to Dublin BART and have the whole BART system at your advantage and go anywhere the BART goes.
Yeah, BART goes, as we close out the show, we have like 5 or 6 minutes left.
I know.
It could take you to O.co, or it could take you maybe to Levi. Or...
Yeah, we're talking about medical care.
I know.
Yes. We'll talk about the 150 in another show. And if that wasn't enough, we'll take you, that same Care Connection van will pick you up. We'll take you one of our early morning commute buses to Sacramento. And this is really spectacular. The Sacramento commuter bus, if you go that route and you transfer to a parking ride lot here in Stockton, that bus, after it drops off all the regular commuters that ride it, will go right directly to the medical facility that you need in Sacramento and drop you off right at the front door.
That's awesome.
And then pick you up in the afternoon before the commute trips. So that's one of the reasons we got the the APTA award. Another one is we have the home safe thing. If you look at our buses, they have a little yellow sign near the front door. Shows like a black pedestrian figure person. We will pick up, our drivers have the discretion to do this. We will pick up any teenager or person that we think is a runaway or in danger of human trafficking. Pick him up very discreetly and quietly, for free, of course. Radio for secure government help while they're on the bus, and allow them to be picked up by meet a police car or deliver them to a specific place like women's shelter.
Yeah.
And we do that completely for free. It's all on us. And that's one of the things we do. Let's see. I know I'm leaving out one here. Van Go, Safe Ride, Caravan, County Connection. Then the other thing is the BART service is going to go on weekends now.
Yeah.
In early November, we're going to allow our BART service that's so popular on the weekdays with 9 round trips a day that we just talked about. We'll have 5. I believe the decision is 5 round trips a day to start with, and that's coming up in early November that we're going to start running the BART service 7 days a week to the Bay Area. And the fare currently is $7 each way to Dublin.
How many times on the weekend?
5 round trips. And the last bus, by the way, will leave Dublin at 10:20 at night, bringing you back to Stockton at 11:45.
Yeah.
So you literally have time to do whatever you need to do in the Bay Area and still come home. The other thing about that, this is not finalized yet, but we are working on a dedicated parking ride lot for that bus, probably a parking garage, which may be a game changer for that route. But I don't want to say any more about that until we have more details. So there's all, and I know I've left out some stuff, but there's all the basic reasons. Oh, books on buses. We collect books, and we have little baskets in the front of the bus where there's kind of like a little luggage rack area. And free of charge, no questions asked, we'll take books, we'll put them on the buses, and people can take those books home and read them, and hopefully they'll return them at a later date. The only thing is we do limit that to appropriate books. Most of the books we pick up are for kids, and they're educational or philosophical or, wonderful children's tales. sometimes fantasy, Dr. Zeus or something. But we'll take reference books too, like the World Almanac or various other things. And adults can also use it. So we have books on buses. So we have books on buses. We have safe home care. We have hybrid buses. We have electric buses. And we have the BART service. We've had and will continue to have something like Uber service. And we have the Van Gogh, which is a similar Uber service that we're operating by ourselves. And then we have the Care Connection. What more could you want? And I know some smart aleck out there, first thing will say, well, like a rail system. Get us some light rail. Well, we do the best we can. There's also, we're even looking at the possibility of marine service to San Francisco, but that's out there a little bit. So, any questions from you, Mr. Dustin?
Well, it's awesome, and how people can go online and find all the details on these information, right?
Yeah, www.lowercase.sj.rtd.com. Our website covers all these things, can explain everything. Also, as we've mentioned a handful of times, I should mention it now, there's a Google Transit app or transportation app that's free to most parts of the United States, I should point out, that you can log into that, and it'll give you all the information you need about RTD routes. It'll actually show you how to get there by RTD, by walking, by riding a bike, by driving a car, or using public transportation, or how we connect to public transportation. By the way, I should mention our routes all connect to Amtrak, the ACE trains. Currently not the airport, but that's probably going to happen again. It did happen in the past, although we come fairly close to the airport. And, of course, we're the home now of the Greyhound bus service for Stockton. So we're tied in with all the other transportation in and around Stockton. We also serve the transit centers in Manteca, Lodi, and Tracy. So RTD service can also take you for the same fare we charge Stocktons, by the way. For the same $1.50 fare, you can ride an RTD bus all the way to Lodi, Manteca, or Tracy and be right there in their downtown. And we're really close. I believe this is going to happen in January. And this is a big, big, big deal. Of taking our Route 91 that currently goes to Manteca and Ripon, doing a left-hand turn at Manteca, and looping through Escalon to Modesto and Ripon and back to Manteca and Stockton. So, RTD is soon going to provide regular all-day transit service to Modesto.
Yeah.
That has never existed before, and you lost direct bus service to Modesto when Greyhound discontinued Manteca service, from Manteca, I should say, and Ripon about the year 2008 or something like that, or 2009. The only way you can get from Stockton to Modesto is by Amtrak, and it's a fairly expensive fare. I mean, it's nothing like a transit fare.
No. Before we go, Nate, anything you want to mention?
I wish the 49ers could stay healthy.
Yeah.
I wish the Giants season will also stay a little healthier. No, but basically, I wish Delta Collies, their football team. We talked about this a little bit. They've had a bit of a struggle. Let's hope they can put some defense together and score some more points and get some W's.
And 49ers ACL Raiders 0-3. It's not looking good so far for
the
Northern
NFL
California
football
teams.
Yeah, NFL football may not have it this year.
Best team in the California are the Rams. But Nate,
that's true.
As always, a great show, and hopefully we'll do this next week again.
Yeah, we'll talk about the recreational sports next show then.
For Nate Knott, this has been Stockton Alive right here on The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org. Good night.